Can you remember back when you were a little girl, like 5 and 6?
Well, I sure can, honey. I can remember some of them days just where it was right today.
On Elkhorn Creek. Did they have any old cars at that time, or was it just all horses?
You didn't see no cars then. The people that had buggies and horses, them was the rich people.
They had the buggies and horses?
And you didn't see but just a few of them, honey, people was so poor.
Old mules?
When we lived at Elkhorn. Now, my Uncle Brian had a real nice buggy and a pretty horse. He was so fat, I could just see that horse. Why, he'd pet him like you would a child, you know. And when Gypsy, my sister Gypsy, was born there at Elkhorn, we lived in an old barn at the house. You'd see cracks through it, just old box planks. Cracks was through it. The light would shine through them cracks, which they had paper over it and still light it go through papers, you know. It was paper, the walls was. And Mommy was scared to death there in that place. No wonder it's out of the world, not a house around.
You know, I was reading the Old West book, and the old cowboy Wyatt Earp and all of them, he didn't die till 1929. You were 19 years old when he died.
That's when me and your pa got married.
1929.
We got married in January the 3rd, 1929.
So you were born in 1910.
Mm-hmm.
When was the first time you saw a car? Can you remember?
At Greeno, when Papa moved us all from Elkhorn to Greeno.
Now, where's Greeno?
He was working in the mines. Well, you know where Allegheny is, don't you?
Yeah.
Well, now, Greeno's right down below it. You come to Greeno, and then you go on up the road to Allegheny.
And Hellier's between both of them?
Hellier was the first place you come to. Hellier, and then Greeno, and then Allegheny.
Okay, I know what you're saying. And what year was that?
Well, me and Pa got married in 29, and Mom and Papa lived there at Greeno when we got married.
So it's 1929 before you saw a car?
No. We never got married till 29. It was, we'd been living there a while before I ever met Eula. And them little Fords come out first. And Keith, I can remember that just as well as it right now. The first Ford car that come out, everybody run to their door out on the porch and down in their front yard. Ooh, that's the most fun. I'll never forget that. And they'd look at that car, and whoever owned that Ford made 2 trips up and down the road in it, because they know that everybody's looking at it. And everybody's out there looking at that car. And he'd blow his horn. That's the most fun ever was. And hey, I'll tell you about the electricity. The first time we ever had electric lights was right there at Greeno, when we left Elkhorn and come to Greeno. It's just as dark like out in the country. Boy, they come through and they put the lights in. And honey, they put the globes in, furnished globes for every house. When they got them globes in and everything fixed up, they turned the lights on. They all just come on. That's the prettiest time I believe I ever seen in my life. And now talk about shouting, people shouted then. That's worse than it was when the Ford went by. Oh my, I wished you'd seen that. We all stood on the porch, we didn't know what to do. Some would get out in the yard and walk around the house and everything.
Watching the lights? Watching
them lights, because that was something nobody'd seen.
Well, when did you first get to ride in a car?
When Poppy bought an old Star car.
Star car, what's that?
That's the name of it, Star. It's a pretty thing, too. You know, they never did make them cars much. They just had a few out. But it was a big, beautiful car. And he wasn't no driver at all. Finally, he sold it. He couldn't hardly drive. He wrecked with me once. Never even put a scratch on him. It's a wonder that didn't kill me and him both. Keith, he turned over just as pretty as you please right in the middle of the road. There we laid on the side of that car. And Poppy was laying down towards the ground, and I was laying over on him, just like we laid over that way taking a nap. And people stopped and come along, and they pulled me through the window. And then they got Poppy out some way or another through the window. And that's the first time I took a ride. And then Poppy tried to kill me. I'd tease him. I said, "You tried to kill me." Turned over just as pretty. Oh, on there. So many things when I was a young girl that I can't forget.
Greeno was a mining camp, wasn't it?
Yeah, and Allegheny was too. I love them mining camps. Oh, I love them. We'll never have them no more, will we?
Used to be the big city, didn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot bigger and nicer and Pikeville down here. That's the reason I can't stand to live out all alone, Keith. I got used to. See, I was just a little girl when Mom and Papa left Elkhorn and moved us over there to Greeno. And then we quit work at Greeno and went to Allegheny and got to rent him a house. All you had to do was just go to the office and rent you a house. It was good old days. I'd like to live in them houses now. And they had pretty houses for us.
Well, I know when you first saw your first color television, because I was there. When we watched the Ten Commandments together at Forge Branch, remember? That was 1973. And we sat in there with Flora
Was that in 73?
Yeah. Carl and Flora, and we watched the old Ten Commandments. When's the first time you remember seeing a television?
Well, Keith, I'm going to tell you the truth. I just hardly don't remember. But I can remember the first time I ever did watch a radio, or listen to the radio, was when we lived at Weeksbury. You know that Fanny always talked about?
Wilkes-Barre is,
In Floyd County.
right. Over toward Wheelwright?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, oh Lord, I think about that shit.
Fanny have the radio?
No, Paul bought the radio for us. And I never had one, never seen one before. And we kept it about 2 weeks. Well, I wouldn't take time to go in and listen after, turn it on. I had too much work to do. Had too many babies and was all the time out working in the garden, milking an old cow I had. See, I'd climb that mountain twice a day to milk. And so Fanny, she just kept on. She'd be up there every night to watch it. Yeah, she'd be up there every night and her going with my man right then, me not knowing it. And I was just as good to her as I could be. Wasn't that awful?
Lord, we'd brain her if we knew it now, wouldn't it?
That was awful.
How long's Fanny been dead?
And she's been dead, I guess, for about 10 years.
Is that right?
Me and Samuel went and seen her once.
Ah.
Yeah, I told Sam to take me up there, and he did.
Was she happy to see you?
Tickled to death. And she come to my house there at Forge Branch. And you know, I believe that always will believe Paul loved her. She stepped out on that old porch, and we hadn't had time to fix the house up where Poppy lived in it. Poppy had some old wire around the porch, keep from falling off of it. The wire was just about that high, and it's half worn out. Just half hanging there. And she stood there on the porch, Fanny did. And she started backing in up against that wall. You know, Paul went like this. I'll never forget it, but I never let on, Keith. I didn't let on because them days was past. And I said to myself sometime when I'll see her again. And she kind of backed back close to that wire that's around the porch. Paul he took about 1 or 2 steps. But kind of raised his hand like he's aiming to grab her. He said, Fanny, don't get too close to that wire. I said, it's no good. I said, you might fall over there. And Keith said, I'll never forget that. I thought to myself, there's just a little bit of sparkling blood there yet.
Yeah. Or he wouldn't have said that, wouldn't he?
Only wanted to tip her. See, he kind of raised his hand. I'll never forget it, Keith, but I never let on, never said a word. Well, we stood there and kept talking, and she said, well, I guess I better be a-going. And nobody didn't speak, and then she said, Pearl, you and you come in here. And she turned and went back in my house and went in Paul's room. And she kneeled down on her knees, and she went to praying. She said, I wanted to have prayer before I left. Me and Paul went in there and listened at her. Now, who could say anything to her? Huh?
Been kind of hard, wouldn't it?
It'd been hard. I'd have been cruel, wouldn't I? So I never said nothing. I asked her back again. I said, we'll come back anytime you want to. That's what I told her.
Is that the last time she saw Paul?
No, we went to see her after that one. Paul went right up there with me once. He sure did. When he gets sick, she'd go down to the doctor's office, tell the doctor what's wrong with him, and she'd bring his medicine to the house and she'd give it to him. Well, I didn't pay attention to her. I just thought she was just a good, true friend and a good woman, to tell you the truth about it. But boy, she sure had me fixed.
Heard the big redhead was...
Now, you see how deceitful some people can be, honey.
Heard the big redhead was sparking while you wasn't looking.
You're happy, right, honey? Now, if you don't think I can remember every little thing, honey, you just name it to me and I can remember it. And I'll tell you something else she done. Now, that hurt me when Paul told me about it, but I didn't let on to him. See, the doctors come to your house. You didn't go to the hospital then when you had your babies, or when you're sick, the doctors come and took care of you. And when I got sick to give birth to Crawford, I thought I'd die that time. I'm telling you, I thought I'd die. And I wouldn't even lay down. The doctor tried to get me to lay down so he could check me. And I wouldn't do it. I'd scream, Keith, I'd scream just loud as I could scream. I said, I can't stand the thoughts of laying down. I couldn't. Oh, I hurt that much worse. And he said, well, lay down there and let me check you. He said, then you can get up and run from room to room if you want to. He said, you can get out in the yard and run if you want to. That doctor said that to me. Well, Mommy, she said, Lord, doctor, about that time. My mom was standing there and she grabbed me. She said, Doctor, she's turning black in the face. Mommy said my face was turning black. And she didn't tell me this until after Crawford was born, Mommy did. And so he made me lay down. He was a big old stout doctor. He just got me and jerked me around there and threw me down on the bed so he could check me. And he said, that baby's ready to be born, but said she's going into fits and suffering so. Said, I'm going to let her up and let her run a while. He said, now you run from one in this house to the other if you want to. There ain't nobody going to say nothing to you. I thought to myself, they better not say nothing to me. I didn't run, but I walked. It was an old straight house on the door.
Shotgun house.
Yeah. And Keith, I bet you I made a dozen trips backwards and forwards. And I walked fast, don't think I didn't. One of them pains was killing me, honey. And all at once, Mommy, she ran there, she said, help, help, help. And there was pain, just took me to the floor. And Mommy grabbed me. So they put me in the bed, and he threw that chloroform over my face. I had to take that there one up. After I got so bad, they'd give me that. And Keith, I grabbed his old big rough stout hands. Ooh, I just mashed them down on my face. See, he was holding that chloroform. I just mashed it down. I wanted to get all that so I wouldn't have a pain, you know. But he was cruel to me, though. I paid for it. He was. He said, are you crazy? He said, don't you know that'll kill you? And he jerked his hands away from my hands, so hateful. He said, that'll kill you. I didn't pay a bit more attention to him saying that than nothing. I was just grabbing it. His hands, he still had that in his hands. Yeah, I was just grabbing at it. Them pains hurt me so bad. And he asked Paul or somebody there to hold my hands so I'd quit grabbing it there. And finally I gave birth to him. He's a big boy, Crawford. Oh, I can't never forget them days, honey, how I suffered. Some of you children, you suffer more than you do with others. Now that Frances, I never had a bit of trouble with her. No, I didn't. Ain't that funny?
It was just Crawford. You had a lot of trouble with Rosie too, though, didn't you?
Oh, Rosaline and Crawford, they like got the best of me, them two did. But now I suffered with a lot of my children. But now them two, I suffered more with them than any of them. And I couldn't believe I had Frances. I really couldn't, Keith, when the doctor come there and told me, you got a big girl. I said, where's she at? I had to see her.
That easy. Maybe after the first 8 or 9 came through, it just got easier.
Yeah, but Lord, look how like died Rosalina.
You was, what, 44?
44 years old. The doctors told Paul, said, now, if she's got any children, well, he said, you call the children in. They hired a nurse to sit up with me. The doctor hired this nurse. She sat up with me for a week every night. Well, he come in one evening to see me. He said, Pearl, you'll have to get your husband, get someone to stay with you tonight. Said the union got on to me. Said I had to take the nurse away, putting out too much money.
You had Rosie at 44, Spicy at 41.
Mm-hmm.
Fayette at, what, 39?
39.
You know, that's a miracle that you'd have 3 kids from age 39 up.
Up to 44. I don't see how I'm going, do you?
No, you're not supposed to have any babies past the age 32 or 33.
Well, 44, that's pitiful.
You was an old woman.
Oh, I reckon I was.
You're an old woman out catting around.
And Keith, this is one thing I hate. If I had this do-over, I'd never said it. But Lord have mercy, from the time I was a young girl and married, it's just having babies and working, having babies and working. Never getting nothing on what to eat. Just barely have rags hiding my nakedness. With both marriages.
Lord.
Why, it's the truth now. It is the truth. I just suffered so much. And when Rosaline was born, they had her in the ambulance and put me in the ambulance. And Paul got in with us. And as he went to get in, he said to a man that passed the ambulance down there in the yard of the hospital, said, hey, step over here and look at my big new girl. Keith, that made me so mad. Honey, I got so mad. If I'd have been home and had anything in my hands, I guess I'd have thrown it at Paul. I'd have thrown it through him. But don't you think I didn't give him down the road when we got home. I couldn't correlate him from the ambulance driver. When we got home, this way I talked to him. I felt sorry for him afterwards, but if I'd had to do it, I wouldn't have talked like that. But I'd had such a hard time. That's what makes you say things that you wouldn't say when you had such a hard time over that. And Keith, I said to him, I said, don't you never, what time you live, ask nobody to come and look at your big newborn girl baby or boy baby or what it is. I said, an old white-headed 44-year-old woman laying there with a baby and her 44 years old. I said, ooh, you made me so mad. I'm telling you, if we'd been out to ourselves, it's gonna tell them what happened.
Was your hair already white?
I was white-headed. Honey, I was white-headed at 35 when I moved Forge Branch. I sure was.
Old woman having a baby at 44.
Wasn't that awful?
Now, if you were 44, that made Paul, he's 14 years older than you?
He's 14 years old.
He's 58.
He was 58 years old when Rosaline was born.
Oh.
And poor fella, half dead, wasn't able to speak to his children. That's what made him so grouchy. You know, when you're sick, you're grouchy. Did you know that?
58.
Sam's kind of like Paul. When Sam gets feeling bad or something. You ever noticed him?
Yeah. Sam's that way a little bit when he's not feeling bad.
Oh my goodness. Well, Keith, did I do wrong saying that to Paul?
Oh, no, I don't guess so. He was just proud. He was just proud that he had a big girl.
Yeah, he wanted to show them all off. When we lived there at Wheelwright, and the ones that's born at Wheelwright, when he'd go to work up morning, he'd holler at every one of his neighbors as he passed the house. You know how them houses was, a row down below and a row up above. We lived in the upper row, and there was a walk just about the size of that little walk there, all the way down to the miner's office where they go to work. Out to the mines, that little walk went. And his pa walked down that little walk. If he seen one of his friends on the porch, go up and look at the big new girl or the big new boy the doctor brought last night. That's what he'd tell him. He was so happy there won. And Buddy, all that day, here they'd come swarming in. I'd get so mad, I'd quarrel. I'd start quarreling just as soon as your pa would come in tonight. Tell him he'd better not name it to nobody else. Lord, we didn't even know she was pregnant, Eula. He said, nobody knows it. Said, she won't talk about it. She gets mad. Keith, I must have been goofy back then. I was absolutely goofy or something wrong with me. I'd get mad if anybody would name pregnant to me. That's kind of like Lee's wife.
No wonder you've been pregnant so many times.
Huh. Never was that myself. If I wasn't letting the baby nurse, I was carrying one in my stomach. It's one I didn't walk. That's what Dorothy did. She said, Ma, no wonder you're like you are.
She had 14 total. 14 babies.
Wasn't that pitiful?
14 times to give birth. All the old cow doesn't give 14 calves.
Keith, that's awful.
Why couldn't you
That's awful to think about.
Why couldn't you have them in a litter and had 4 or 5 at a time? It'd been easy.
Well, I don't know whether it would or not. There'd been 4 or 5 took care of them in 11 or 12 months here coming up.
Lord.
What would you do?
Christmas is the time of year for being with the ones we love, sharing so much joy and cheer. What a wonderful feeling, watching the ones we love having so much fun. I was sitting by the fireside, taking a walk through the snow, listening to a children's choir, singing songs about Jesus, the blessed way that He came to us. Why can't it rain? Oh, through the year, each day the same. That's what I want to hear. It's truly amazing, that spirit of Christmas